back in 2008, I had an accident that wrecked me physically and mentally. But after a long 5-year recovery period, I decided to build myself up from the outside in with calisthenics. Today, I'm almost 41, and although I don't have everything figured out, I do have a family I adore, and I feel and look better than ever. And calisthenics continue to be one of the cornerstone habits that keep me in balance. That said, one of the secrets that I found when it comes to being consistent for so long with any practice like this that matters in life is the importance of spicing things up and keeping them challenging. This is why the last 2 years I've started doing my calisthenics weighted. So if you feel like your old bodyweight routine has become stale, or you're tired of traditional weightlifting routines and you want to try something different, today's video is for you. I'll be covering classic beginner mistakes when it comes to getting started with weighted calisthenics, best ways to load bodyweight exercises, and how to maximize results when it comes to building your best naturally jacked physique. Check it out. By the way, if you don't have a solid foundation with bodyweight exercises, then before getting started with weighted calisthenics, I would recommend downloading my free beginner's guide, Bodyweight First, which is how I got most of my best results. Link in the top and comment below. The most common mistake men make with weighted calisthenics is adding too much weight too fast. I see this when I visit calisthenic parks and online, but it's important to highlight that just adding as many plates as possible on your pull-ups or dips doesn't necessarily mean you're optimizing for muscle growth. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is also something I did a little bit in the beginning of my weighted calisthenics journey, even though I knew better because, that's how we men are. Our ego very often tends to get in the way without us even realizing it. The moment though I started scaling back was when I noticed a lot better results in terms of building more muscle. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because it does make a difference. Okay, so a way that I like to explain these even better is making a comparison between an Olympic weightlifter and a bodybuilder. So the reason that Olympic weightlifters can lift insane loads at very low weight classes is not because obviously they're really big, but because they're really, really skilled at recruiting the muscle fibers, so the muscles that they already have, right? They've basically gotten very skilled at producing maximum force for minimum size. This is exactly why guys like Anatoly, if you've seen his pranks on YouTube, can do what they do. Bodybuilding though works differently, right? The goal is not just to get the bar or your body from point A to point B. The goal is to do that while also producing as much muscle contraction, as much muscle tension as possible. I mean, don't get me wrong, progressive overload is still key here. You still wanna lift more weight and get stronger across time, but you don't wanna do that at the expense of creating too much momentum that allows you to feel your muscle less, that minimizes contraction. You want to maximize again that muscle tension both on the way up during the pull-up and on the way down. A lot of people don't know this, but also the lowering part builds equally as much muscle as the positive phases of the rep going up. Plus, training this way is a lot safer. So to make a long story short, if you want to prioritize muscle growth, never sacrifice muscle tension for adding more weight. To do this, you want to add a weight that you can handle with perfect form and a weight that allows you to move in a controlled fashion during the descent, also known as the negative phase of the rep, to pause for a split second at the bottom instead of bouncing up and down, to use full range of motion to feel the targeted muscle at work, and to never sacrifice form for ego. Training this way is a safer but also more optimal way to build muscle in the long run, which is what you should be aiming for when you train as a natural. Just to be clear, you still have to train really hard, balls to the wall, if you want to get serious results. You just do it in a more slow and controlled fashion though. This is why, before you even consider adding weight, make sure that you can first do 12 pull-ups, 15 dips and rows, and 20 push-ups, again, all with perfect form using the previous guidelines. For pull-ups, once you can do over 12 perform reps, you can start loading yourself with an extra 2.5 kilos, aiming for 8 reps across at least 3 sets. And every time you scale that up to 3 sets of 12, repeat the same process. I know this can feel ridiculously small weight at first, especially compared to what you see on YouTube. This is why I call this strategy microloading. But remember, the goal is to lift like an old school bodybuilder and not like a powerlifter. Your top option to load this exercise is using a weight belt. Obviously, you can also use a backpack or a weighted vest. Just keep in mind that when using a backpack, it can take some of the focus off the lats, which is the primary muscle you should be focusing on, since having the weight behind you pulls you backwards, activating your core and shoulders more in order to keep you stabilized. This also happens in a way with a weighted vest, since because you raise the center of gravity, it makes the movement feel less natural. For dips, if you can do 15 perform reps, you can start with a more modest load, like 5 kilos on week 1, and progress conservatively from that point forward, adding 2.5 or even 1 kilo per week once your progress rates start to slow down. Here, using a backpack can again be tricky, since if you have it in the front, it might feel like it's getting a little bit in the way, making the movement uncomfortable, or having it on your back takes the focus off your chest and emphasizes more the triceps. Therefore, a weighted vest, or even better, a weight belt works better. With push-ups, once you can do over 20 clean reps, you can start a little bit more heavy, adding 10 kilos during week 1, and after that, building your way up slower, again adding no more than 2.5 kilos per week. Here, using a weighted backpack is the way to go, since it doesn't restrict your range of motion at the bottom like a weighted vest does, and as long as you keep the weight tight and snug in the upper part of your back, you have a weighted calisthenics exercise that, in my opinion, is even better than any bench press. Next, inverted rows can be a little bit tricky to load, but the best solution that I found that feels comfortable and doesn't restrict range of motion is placing your legs on an elevated surface, wearing a weighted backpack like you normally would, and using a comp buckle strap to make sure the backpack stays tightly close to the body and isn't just dangling behind you or touching the floor. Otherwise, you can also simply switch to one-arm rows, which might target arms a little bit more than your back, but is still a great advanced variation. When it comes to lower body exercises, like for example squatting, weighted vests here work best. Plus, later on, you can even combine a goblet squat, meaning holding either a kettlebell or a dumbbell close to your chest, combined with a vest, in order to keep things challenging without having to use a whole barbell. By the way, don't pay attention to my form for these. These are just for demonstration. I train my lower body a little bit differently due to my prosthesis. Personally, I also like weighted wall sits as a pre-fatigue method prior to, let's say, an exercise like a toe squat, which even when done bodyweight this way, can feel a lot more challenging, or prior to a more dynamic movement like hill sprints with resistance. In the beginning, I would say just start with whatever it is that you have. For a while, I mostly used a backpack because that's all I had. That said, as you start to get stronger, it is a good idea to start upgrading your equipment. And whether you train outdoors or at home, or if like me, you enjoy combining both, I would then say combining the following pieces of equipment. Number 1, a rope weight belt that is easy to fit in a backpack. By the way, I'll include my favorite recommendations in the description below. Number 2, a simple tactical backpack or a Gorak backpack, if that fits your budget and you're starting to load your weighted push-ups with more than 30 kilos. And number 3, weighted plates with a grip, so you can load your backpack with them when you're training outdoors, but also use them with your weight belt. This way, you can train all exercises optimally just out of your backpack, doing push-ups with it on your back, and most of the other exercises with the weight belt. That was all for today. If you have any other questions, make sure you leave them below. Don't forget to download my free beginner's guide. And until next time, keep on training.